Boom. Boom. It's Trent Knox back with another episode. This is episode number 57 of the Trent Knox Show. This is a new format, I guess. I did seasons before. I've done, this is a new thing, episode by episode. So I counted out the episodes up to this episode. Previous episode was with DJ SAB. That was Culture. And, so I want to get back to doing a daily in studio, this home studio vlog of what you want to call it, and put it out there and have it on all the all the platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I think that's the three. Those are the three video platforms. Instagram, but I don't want to crop it to do that. I'm kind of lazy, I guess. But yeah, so this episode is about popularity, social media popularity, personal popularity, online, offline. And before I get into this episode, if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and the notification bell so that you'll get updates on when I post my new episodes. Also, in the description below is your gig economy, your financial resources, all of my social media channels. And there should be another thing on there, but I can't remember. Maybe the description of this episode, All right. So this has been something that I've been, working over for the past month, I guess. I was looking at my, Facebook page numbers, analytics, and whatnot, and I noticed, I'm not getting any engagement. I'm not getting any likes. I don't have any followers. What do I do? Why am I stuck in this 80 likes, 90 followers? How'd that even happen? How did I have more followers than I had likes? How does that happen? So someone must have, must have went in there and unliked, but their follower was still there. It was a little bit confusing to me. So I kind of was like, all right, well, I don't have a global following, let alone a local following, let alone a global following. But it seems to be more difficult to, build a local following. Everyone seems to be building their own thing, or, if they're like just content consumers and they're not content producers, then they're more likely to want to save that space as a content consumer for, a more popular person like The Rock, Kevin Hart, Joe Rogan, different A-list celebrities. And if you want to call those A-list, maybe they're B-list, maybe they're C-list, whatever your perspective is, okay? But on social media, we kind of gauge that by something called Social Blade. Social Blade effectively, monitors Instagram following, YouTube following, Twitch following, and kind of gives you a robust comprehension of the analytics and the followers that you have on social media. And so what your rating is there kind of gives you an idea of what class of entertainment you are. If you're on the A-list, you're probably, you're probably Will Smith. You're probably Dan Bilzerian. You're probably there are a number of different accounts out there. You're PewDiePie for sure. PewDiePie, Marshmallow, Ninja. Those guys out there that are building giant followings based on their form of entertainment, whether that's gaming, music, culinary arts, art, whatever that thing is. Well, anyway, so back to how I kind of been learning a little bit about what I need to do in order to grow my following. See, I had it backwards in my mind. I had the conception, the idea that the content that I produce would be so impactful that people would gather around and interact with the content. Well, it's the opposite. I need to not go and spread my content, but provide engagement with people that may or may not be looking at my content. So provide engagement to them and show them that the content that you are providing is beneficial regardless of whether it's your art or not. You're out there being a conscientious producer. So you're conscious of the overall environment of content production, whereas you're not just solely focused in being, egotistical or selfish about your own content. You don't have to be like you don't have to be solely 100% give, but you do need to take some credit for what you do. But it's like Gary Vee says, it's the $1.50 rule or whatever, $1.85, whatever you want to call it. But you put your 2 cents in and don't expect $1 back, but maybe expect half a cent back, and that advertisement will grow your overall image. It's your image. Recently on the episode, I can't remember who the guest was. Joe Rogan had a guest on that's another comedian that he was talking to, and the other comedian brought up the cultural phenomenon of people calling their art or whatever a brand, that you're growing your brand. And Joe Rogan brought up that was kind of like a gross term, saying that you're growing your brand or whatever, and he made it a joke or whatnot, but it's really an image, your overall public image, your business persona. That's what you're branding. Branding is the word, but it's not your brand, because a brand in his perspective is Nike, Adidas, Coca-Cola, IBM, HP, Dell, those kind of brands where there's something that's being physically produced. I mean, in argument's sake, if you're in like the sex industry or something like that, and arguably you're having children through the sex industry, which is, I don't think that's, I mean, it's legal, but it's not like legal some ways. Like, you can go to a sperm bank or an egg donor area and donate your eggs or donate your sperm, and then that kind of thing. But you can't go online, start up, you could, I guess theoretically you could go online and start a page, and then people paid you for impregnating them, or getting pregnant for you or something like that. I guess that's theoretically okay. I don't know the legality of it, but it would seem like if you can go to somewhere where they can take your eggs and they can tell you what you're going to do with it, you think that you can make your own decisions. Yeah, I mean, a surrogate. That's what a surrogate is. So yeah, I think that it's interesting. I mean, if we want to brand, like, okay, so blue-eyed, blonde-haired people, or brown hair, green-eyed people, or whatever your combination is. Like, if that's a brand to you and you call it something and then you recreate it. I mean, we do it with animals such as horses, dogs. We do it with a lot of other things. So why wouldn't you be able to do it with your own personal development? But whatever, growing your image, growing your online image, whether that's professional, personal, whatever it means, is that you got to interact. You got to provide something back to the community, whether that's the global community, your local community, your niche community, whatever that may be. And something to start off with is, getting involved in groups, online or offline. And it's difficult these days. It's difficult. Oh my gosh. The sink went off on the computer, so had to fix that. Anyway, so back to the point. What was I saying? Oh my god. So oh my god, why did I forget this shit? It's just like when you get on to a subject and you're going so good, you're really building, and then all of a sudden the server crashes and all that you built is pointless. It's irrelevant because now you can't continue to build. So you essentially got killed by the game. So like, this is why I dislike the game Fortnite, is because you can start building, but if the way you're building doesn't work inside the algorithm, then the algorithm will cancel you, will defeat you. You're trying to do this new tactic that would be, in theory, work perfectly fine if the goddamn buttons work perfectly, and then the buttons glitch out and it just malfunctions, and then the thing doesn't happen the way it's supposed to happen, the way that you are currently doing it, and you know you're doing it because you have a program that's monitoring your key clicks, and you're doing it 100% every single time because the key clicks and everything's right, but the game is malfunctioning and the server shuts down or something, and it just completely goes to shit. Then it's all Epic's fault because they fucked up. It's not your fault. It's because their servers are shit. But anyway, minus that whole tirade right there, building your image is what I was talking about, and I was going on, then the computer glitched, and I forgot what the heck I was talking about. What I was building on. I was building on a subject. Ah, my gosh. The importance of building a personal and a business brand, my tactics of interacting. It's hard and difficult. Okay, yeah. It's difficult to find offline groups to get involved with unless you are personally inserting yourself and forcing yourself to go to the local community center, or you're going to the bar, or you're going somewhere that has a youthful, interactive community, then it's going to be difficult for you to build a brand, a image, a personal or professional image without that interaction, and gambling on the fact that you joining this, community is going to be beneficial for you is not worth your time. It's not worth your time. So if you're going to like a bar or something like that, and you're spending X amount of dollars and recouping or reciprocating, receiving, whatever, that much double in return, then there's no reason for you to be utilizing your time there. Now, this is probably a reason why when you go to the bar, you probably only see 5s, 6s, and 7s, because 8s, 9s, and 10s, whether that's male or female, aren't going there because there's no incentive for 8s, 9s, and 10s. They're not showing up because what are they going to do? Drink? I mean, what are they going to drink because they feel some way or something? And then all the hecklers of the 1s through 7s and the 8s and the 9s are all heckling up. And the heckling up is what causes someone who's, a little insecure, but they still look good, or their belief system is different, to not go and interact in the community. So that's why we see these artificial, these artificial people online, 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s, 6, 5, wherever you are on the scale of 1 to 10, because that person doesn't find a niche within the reality of offline. Their alternate reality, online, they seem to be able to connect with more 10s and 9s and 8s and 7s. May that be they connect in offline or not. So, that's what happens. And then there's a lot of people who have this misconception that they're a 9 or something like that until they meet a real 9. And then you're like, wow, that's a real 9. But they never have that interaction, so they're going around putting makeup on, checking their blemishes or whatever, and not being authentic online. And then offline, they look like a dweeb, or they look like a loser or something like that. because they're not portraying the real them in front of the camera. And so, whether that's your small personal page or your large business page, or some way that you're interacting with a business or another person, you're putting on an image that doesn't match offline what you put online. So it's like, for me, authenticity online has always been important. Though, I've always ran into, obstacles and pushback from this, because everyone always wants to, tell you how you should live. Everyone always wants to say how you should look, how a company may perceive you, and all of that is nonsense, because a company doesn't want to hire someone that they look at and they're like, oh, this person's fake 6 months down the road, because they didn't see the real person in front of the camera. They saw some fabricated bullshit, and then fake resumes and all of this nonsense that kind of, is this pity pat game bullshit. But, so for those of you out there who are, trying to get a professional job at ABC Incorporated, or, WBYN Network, or, X Manufacturing, or DBG Accounting, or publications, or whatever, you may want to have some fake ass account online just so that people, and then have your bullshit account private, I don't know. I don't know if that's true anymore. I think everybody has access to anything they want to get access to. They can get access to it as long as they're, in bed with some corporation that, does private investigation, and they hack into your they hack into a third party that's associated with you, and then they've got your information. They don't necessarily have to have your personal information to get your information. They could have your friend's information, and then because you're friends with that person, they've got your information. You can't do. There's no way to completely, there's no way to completely privatize a public platform like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or whatever. Your bullshit will rise to the top. Everyone will be exposed. If you're out there, you're the type of person that calls the cops on someone because there's a noise ordinance or something like that, or because they're being annoying to you, then, you're exposed for being a snitch, a bitch. Snitching bitch. And that's what that is, and especially it's bad when those, when you're a snitching bitch and that shit fucking reciprocates back onto you. But then you have to go through the legal system to prove that you didn't actually do what they say that you did, or whatever the system wanted to get out of you. Money, monetarily, time, whatever it was. You have to go back and deal with that crap. Speeding, when the cops' radar system wasn't up to code, so he gave you a false ticket, or these cops that are on per diem and that are essentially independent contractors for a privatized prison system is freaking ridiculous. It's stupid. There's no regulation on it. There's not enough regulation on it in order to not have people who are essentially they're essentially just bigots, or they're mentally handicapped to think that they can oppress other people through their fabricated, fictitious installation, which wasn't publicly voted on. Nobody Nobody votes for the policemen. Nobody says, "Oh, it's a good idea for this weirdo to be able to oppress people and tell people what they should and shouldn't do." You know, this person, every police officer should be elected. It should not be like some random dick off the street gets involved into the police office, off into the business. It's stupid. Some PI that thinks he's got a little dick syndrome, Napoleonism, gets involved in policing our society. Now, like the department heads of sheriff's offices and police departments, they're elected. But, like, come on, what the fuck? This is ridiculous. All of this badgering and all of this stuff that's constantly happening, and then people are always snitching on everybody. Anyway, and there's no such thing as snitching on snitching, okay? That's the most wild thing to think about. Is like, oh, okay, so you, the person who snitched on a snitch, is now the person who's in charge, is responsible for the crime of snitching. No! The initial snitcher is the one who is in charge of the crime of snitching. It's like there's not a ladder of snitching. Like it doesn't go the next rung does not get the original base snitcher is the one who gets charged for snitching. It's like snitching on a snitcher is not snitching. Okay? But yeah, so building popularity comes from, controversy sometimes. Sometimes it comes from positive things. Sometimes it comes from education. Sometimes it comes from entertainment. Sometimes it comes from a lot of different things, but, family, friends. It comes from, mainly being persistent and working hard. Those things are the most important. Being out there, creating content, coming up with new concepts, ideas, brainstorming, always working hard to get the next thing done, Whether that's like something for me where I get on and I do a podcast or a video vlog or something like that of my current state of mind, or it's something like, a skit or a movie or music or whatever your thing is, and getting out there and doing it. Stop pondering, thinking, brainstorming when you've already accomplished enough in your mind and you've got a good idea of what you want to accomplish, and go and act and execute. Because there's not a lot there's becoming more people who can be a chief executive officer, but unless you execute and you get things done and you sell and you put yourself in the right place, you market and you advertise and you do everything you can possibly do to get that product out there, there's no way that people are going to have, if you don't do those things, no one's going to know about you. You don't miraculously just show up in their news feed. Sometimes you might catch a wave, like you post about something that's popular at the time. Like recently I posted about on Twitter before all of the mainstream media outlets got out there on it. I posted about the Old Town Road remix with Billy Ray Cyrus and Lil Nas. And I just so happened to get a micro viral thing. Like I got I don't know how many likes it has right now, but I got like 15 retweets. You know what I mean? I did ask my friends to retweet it as well. So I got like 3 friends to retweet it, but I got like 10, 11 retweets from random strangers, It didn't really change my followership on Twitter, which is unfortunate because you really got to find those number one things to talk about. And if you're not talking about the number 1 to number 10, not even 10, 10's too deep, because if you're talking about the number 1 thing that's trending on Twitter, you might get some retweets, you might get a couple of likes. It's hard. I don't know. I think it's highly unlikely that you're going to get a follow. But you might get a follow, and then that might, boost your credibility a little bit, at least on Twitter. And then maybe you're working towards getting a blue check mark. Blue check marks are probably the most important thing in society right now, because it validates whether you are a human being or not. I don't think that they're out there, social media platforms are out there validating artificially intelligent robots, but I may not be correct on that. And if you know something about artificial intelligent created robots that are verified blue check marks, comment down below and let me know what the deal is so I can pursue this conspiracy. Because in actuality, in offline reality, this can really convolute someone's thinking process, believing that something that is artificial is real, and that's not, that there's no way to live up to be that. There's no way to, a Kim Kardashian, a Kanye West, or whatever these things are. For instance, in the new Captain Marvel movie, which I saw last night, Samuel L. Jackson is CGI. It's all CGI. We know Samuel L. Jackson is old. Like, why not just put in a CGI version of him? His voice is relatively the same, and as long as he's warmed up, he'll be able to really captivate the people with his voice acting, and he doesn't even have to be one time in the scene. They could just have a stand-in or a body double, or anybody, to be honest, anybody with characteristics that are similar to Samuel L. Jackson. Because he's got an iconic voice and an iconic way of acting. Yeah. And they've been doing that for quite some time. I think the first movie that probably showcased this was the Curious Case of Benjamin Button. And that was, the Brad Pitt movie in which he had regenerative aging. So I think that's right, regenerative aging, where he went from old to young in the reverse. It was quite strange. But that's something that's going on. You don't know what's realistically the reality that we're dealing with here. And I just hope that, that as I'm building my community, and you guys here now who are with me as I grow, online and offline, can understand that my goal is to mostly bring things into the offline reality, and express that everything in my community is a safe community, though everything will be judged upon, and that's just the reality we live in, is that you can't get away with, saying some bullshit and not having some sort of way to educate people on how it's not bullshit and how it's factual and has merit, and that people are thinking the wrong way, and that the perspective is actually the opposite of what people maybe in the mainstream believe. That the mainstream is actually negative. It's not positive. And that's something that Kevin Hart was just talking about on that last that interview with him and Joe Rogan, is that where humanity is predisposed to be entertained by the failure and negativities of other people. And that's something that I think that we all have to work on, is that instead of, praising people for their craziness, but praise them for their for their due diligence and their good that they bring to the community at large. Anyway, so that's my thing on popularity. I think that a lot of people, have made themselves popular by their looks, like a Kim Kardashian or Kendall Jenner or Kylie Jenner, that whole family, a Paris Hilton, which was really, Kim Kardashian was an intern for Paris Hilton, so that's what created the whole Kim Kardashian world. Your Sports Illustrated swimsuit models, your Playboy bunnies, or the whole modeling world where we look at them and see them as we idolize them, and actors, comedians, whatever it may be. And what can we do? How can just an average person work towards building a resume, experience, and get to be observed by others? How does someone build enough to where they have credibility, get that blue check mark on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever new website that validates and verifies people? Is it going to be, something where we get to the level where you have to have federal ID or an online, ID? Is Facebook an online ID? Is that the representation globally? Do you have to validate yourself with a passport? Does it have to be a U.S. passport? What is this kind of thing? Something that has been coming up since I've been promoting gig economy opportunities, is that I get a lot of applications from Africa, South America, Asia, all these different areas around the world, Indonesia, and they want to find a job in the United States of America. And I tell them, like, look, I'm not at the point at which I can get foreign nationals, through customs and through immigrations in order to, house them and feed them and, and put a little money in their pocket so that they can afford to, begin a life or build a house or something, do whatever they got to do, right? But I'm really wary against doing something like that because it's just another form of slavery, and the consequences of bringing that into the United States is the depreciation in value of my neighbor and the citizens around me, because it takes away the opportunities that they may have, the homeless population that's ever growing, to have opportunities to work, or learn, or many other aspects of society. So these people, I don't know, like these people who come over from foreign nations and build their social media following off of U.S. platforms, it's like, what? We're all just kind of living in a global society, but the world's not scale. The world is not at scale. The U.S. is at scale, but the world is not at scale. So those people who are just coming over here and who are, wealthy billionaires in their own right, in their own countries, the equality over there is not what it's like here in America. So they're depreciating the equality that we have here in America by bringing their nonsense and at sometimes radical beliefs and ideologies, which can depreciate the overall value of the equality in America. And everybody complains like, oh, the equality isn't the same among citizens. And that's just, I think that everybody kind of believes that generally people are good in America growing up here, building their lives. I mean, there are a lot of people who struggle, financially, and there's like a family history of that happening, of mental illness. And we often pre-diagnose people, or worst case scenario, diagnose people with mental illnesses prematurely. When a kid's 18, calling him schizophrenic when his prefrontal cortex hasn't even developed all the way yet. There's just, or calling him bipolar, or calling them any type of itis or ist or this or that. Bullshit, because these medical physicians that are doctors in training that don't actually have their PhD and aren't the foremost experts on the subject matter are just appeasing the pharmaceutical companies. Oh, I went off on a tangent there. But you have to be somewhat different. And I'm not talking about mentally, because I'm not talking about the kind of guy that goes and kills somebody based on their infatuation or convoluted perception of the reality. I'm talking about you have to be a go-getter. You have to be drastic. You have to be willing to take chances. You have to be a risk taker in order to accomplish your dreams. Not your dreams, because that's your desires, the things that you want in your current reality, online, offline. You have to take chances. You have to go out there. You have to do things that the system doesn't register, thinks that it is a different, and it doesn't fit in a box. That's the whole imagery that you get out of the opening of the Kevin Hart comedy special, is that everybody's putting this guy in a box. They're trying to make him say he's this or that. He's in this contained box, and not until he gets out and can express himself does he feel like he's out of the box, like he's out of people. There's only a small amount of time, an hour, in which he gets to express himself in actuality, and maybe he's not thinking enough about the consequences of focusing on the money rather than focusing on the good or the great that can come out of his special. So he focuses on a demographic of people and isolates, and rather not focusing on the great. And this happens with a lot of public speakers. A lot of public speakers, rather than like Gary Vee, wanting to be historically accurate about subject matters, will bend in order to appease a certain demographic. Rather, you should always be doing the right thing, the thing that you think is right? Unless that has to do with the physical harm or well-being of another person. We're not talking about money. Money is not a physical, issue. There's always going to be a financial resource out there for you. That's the whole thing about Gary Vee. You go out there, with your 50 cents, you buy something worth $10 for 50 cents and then flip it, and then buy something worth $100 for $10, and then something worth $100 that's worth $1,000. And you just flip, because there's always an opportunity to get the cream off the crop. You can get the cream off the top by just going to find those people who have all the bread and the little amount of bread and tons of icing. Don't be the person with all the bread and a little bit of icing, because the icing is what the value is. But the people with, just a little bit of bread, all that sugary icing, they've got all that cash that they got nothing else to do with it. They just got to get rid of it. They got too much of it. They got to get rid of it. Things, property, they got to get rid of it. And they don't care what the cost is, because they've got to get rid of it to create more space for more things. So they, you get it, and then you throw it out and you sell it. And maybe that's your thing. My thing, the thing that I'm good at is building things, getting things. I do a little bit of flipping. Maybe you don't know, actually. I'm telling you right now that I did a lot of volunteer work. I've never brought this up before on a podcast. I did a lot of volunteer work when I was growing up, because I was in a program where volunteer work got you access to these great resources and camp opportunities. And then when I graduated college, I got the Golden Owl Award for like 100 hours of community service or something like that. It was like such a small amount of community service hours that I did, and I got that, that badge of being a volunteer and being like, helping people. I was a big time helper. I was, something else I don't think I've ever brought up on the podcast before, is that I was a mentor throughout, elementary school, middle school, and high school. I always mentored somebody that was my, my junior, my, a grade lower than me, or lower than that even. Like when I was in 5th grade, I had a 3rd grader, or maybe even a kindergartner, that I was mentoring, going through the school, kind of showing them what the ropes were like in the school, and what it would be like going to school at the elementary school. And then when I got to the middle school, I did it again. I did that for the kids that were about to graduate from the elementary school and coming to the middle school. And then after that, I went to high school, and I did it for elementary kids and middle schoolers. And, I was part of these mentor programs. And something that I'm really, was misfortunate about that is that when I got out of high school, that opportunity, I lost that mentality. I lost that mentality of that, because I was so much put into the system and not that I wasn't. I didn't have the family structure that I had before, because society thinks that once you become 18, you are responsible for being an adult. But you're not taught what it means to be an adult. The change from going from high school to college, you're hearing things from people who have been in, who your parents are the people who are teaching you these things. Someone like myself, unless I went to karate or I went to some sort of educational system, alternative education system other than the school system, I wasn't getting any mentorship. Nobody was educating me on what it is to live. Okay? Someone, I look up to now is Gary Vee, Ty Lopez, Tony Robbins, these kinds of people who are public speakers, not motivational speakers, minus all of that, but public speakers talking about life, what it is to live, money, food, water, shelter, needs, necessities, breaking it down to the essentials, the basics, in order for you to continue through life and be a positive member of society. That was one of my previous things in which I was just talking about me specifically. But now that I'm on this, I want to talk about the mentorship. So when I got to college, I had no idea what it was like to be in college. And so I would join fraternities or something like that to get an idea, but that wasn't what the whole of college is. I went to I was in a dorm where it was a activity based dorm where you had, in order to be in the dorm, you had to do so many hours of extracurricular activities with the community there. And the dorm, it didn't provide, that wasn't it either. The experience of college isn't necessarily, some people are giving enough education on or mentorship toward. It's so you get there and you're like now financially in the shits because you take out huge loans, but you don't know what to do. How do you do socially? How do you do education wise? How do you do to build a personal portfolio? And how do you start from your freshman year doing that? And it's not they don't give you enough education through fraternities. They don't give you enough education through dormitories. They don't give you enough education through classes. They don't give you enough education through introductory courses to the campus. Groups don't do it for you. Meetups don't do it for you. It's literally, you have to have a mentor, someone who understands what it's like to go through college. I went to the University of I went to Texas State University for my undergraduate freshman year. Then I transferred to the University of Hawaii. And at the University of Hawaii, I made every mistake that a student can make in college, but still pass at the end of the year. Understanding that at the end, you're going to need help. You can't do it alone. And if you do it alone, it's going to take longer and it's going to be harder. Because once you get out, you're going to be exhausted, you're going to be worn out, you're going to be completely worthless, at least to a corporation, because you're not going to know how to work in a team. You're just not going to. That's the facts. And every single work environment is a team. I made that mistake. I tried to do it on my own. I tried to get everything done. But at the end, it's always somebody else that's going to be supporting you to get through it. Because they're going to want your money. They're going to want your time. They're going to want your interaction. They're going to want you to pay back to the school through donations. They're going to want to get you to do everything that you shouldn't do. Everything that you should do is work on yourself. But if you want to be able to understand how to direct a team, you have to be a part of the team. And that's the problem. The problem is it shouldn't be that way. There should be an outlet for someone to be able to accomplish the goal on their own and build their own thing without being a part of the team. Being an I, forget about team. Just being an I. Just being the sole purpose, the catalyst for earning an income. But everything is communicating with the buyer, communicating with the seller, communicating with the consumer, communicating with all these people in a team, a network. And that's something that isn't explained throughout high school because you're just being pushed along. In high school, you're just going with the flow. In college, there's no going with the flow because there are too many flows, too many waves. All of this is going on. The break is happening all the time. That's why you see in college, you see the girl that's in Ibiza because she doesn't have school. You're not on the same schedule. You're not on the same program. There's multiple skills in one school. You're just the perspective on what the university is, the college, the community, whatever it may be that you're looking at higher education is difficult. But anyway, so I think that's enough for today. This was the 57th episode of the Trent Knox Show. Like I said, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the like button, and hit the notification bell for future episodes. If you have any comments, leave them down in the comment box below. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Either if you caught it on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you caught it. Comment somewhere. Let me know how you feel. And I appreciate you guys. Have a great day.